Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be bringing you a therapeutic sequence for your low back. So, low back is a pretty common ailment that a lot of us deal with. That low back pain that just can be really distracting, and low back pain can come from a multitude of different sources. So, what I want to present to you today is more of a back strengthening and a core strengthening sequence. And a lot of the times that low back pain comes from weak back muscles and weak core muscles, and so that our body tends to compensate to support us when we're upright or when we're sitting. Our body compensates in different ways to make up for that weakness in those spinal extensors, so the muscles that kind of run along the spine, the QL muscles, and as well as the core muscles, which is not just, the six pack, but also the transverse abdominis and, the multiple different muscles around the core that are really responsible for holding us up, holding us upright, giving us nice posture. So today we're going to really focus on building the strength in those muscles in this short therapeutic sequence. So we're going to start with standing. You don't need any props for this class. So you can do this wherever. You don't even really need a yoga mat if you don't have one. So I want you to stand in mountain pose, and I want you to put a little micro bend in your knees, and then I want you to take your hands around to where your seat meets the tops of your thighs. Awesome. So settle in here, grounding down through the feet, and we're going to come into that forward fold, but I want you to really think about lengthening through the spine as you start to slide the hands down the backs of the legs, bending the knees more, lengthening in the space behind your heart to slide the hands all the way down onto the backs of the calves. Good. Let the head hang here for a moment. And then we're going to start to slide the hands back up. Now, what I don't want you to do is to lead with the head and look up, because then our lower back, our lumbar spine, does the same thing, and we come into overly rounding through the low back. And I also don't want you to come up with a rounded spine like so. Instead, I want you to find that neutral spine, sliding the hands up, lengthening through the back, hugging the core in towards the back of the spine to come back up with the micro bend in the knees, hands back to the place where your seat meets the tops of your thighs. Let's do that again. So we're going to hinge forward from the hips, bending through the knees, sliding the hands down the back of the thighs, hug the belly button in towards the spine to slowly bend and fold into that standing forward fold. Hands rest on the back of the calves or the back of the ankles. Let the head hang heavy, gravity tractioning the spine. And same thing goes. We're not leading with the head and we're not rounding through the back, but try to keep the spine as neutral as possible, drawing the shoulders down and lengthening the space behind your heart, hugging the belly in as you come back up to stand. Good. Now let's do that same thing, maintain the same idea, but this time we're going to do it with the arms overhead. So go ahead and reach those arms up. Put a micro bend in your knees, and then we're going to begin to hinge from the hips, keeping the core engaged. The spine is long as we begin to hinge forward, bending more into the knees to release into that forward fold. And then we're going to come back the same way we came in, so pressing through the feet, hugging the belly in, engaging the core, lengthening through the back side of the body, especially the space between your heart. We're going to start to come back up, keeping the neck in neutral alignment with the spine. Bent knees here are totally fine and encouraged to come back up and release the arms. Let's do that again. Inhale the arms forward and up. Put a micro bend in your knees. Hug the belly in. Start to fold forward. Long spine, bring the ribs up out of the pelvic bowl. Good. Slow and steady to come to your forward fold, bending the knees a lot, letting the head hang heavy. draping the thigh or the belly over the thighs. We're going to come back up, so engage through the arms, pressing through the feet, engaging into the core, lengthening the back side of the body, lengthening through the belly to come back up, and exhale, release. Awesome. We're going to come into the final version of this variation of a sun salute, and we're going to come into that half lift. So half lift means we bring the spine to parallel. Sometimes we have the legs straight. For this version, I want you to bend the knees as much as you feel like you need to. We're going to come into that half lift, or the spine parallel to the ground. You always have the option to kind of bring the body further up if you need to. So we want to prioritize lots of length in the spine, so lengthening the tailbone down, drawing the belly button up and in. Good. We're going to extend those arms once more, and then we're going to come into cactus arms. So as you turn the palms down towards the floor, we're going to bend through the elbows, take the elbows to 90 degrees, hugging the belly in, and then extending the arms. Good. Lengthen the space behind your heart and bend the elbows once more, retracting the shoulder blades toward each other. Inhale to extend. Last time, exhale, bend the elbows, keep the belly button hugged in. Inhale to extend the arms and to stand. Exhale to release. Hopefully you feel that engagement of the core, the engagement of the lower back, lots of work in the spine and belly here. So let's take a full mini sun salutation as we inhale up. And then let's exhale. Instead of swan diving and splaying the ribs open, I want you to keep that neutral spine that we just had as we slowly hinge forward from the hips, bending the knees a lot, coming into that forward fold. Inhale to the half lift, keeping a micro bend in the knees, hands to shins or knees or thighs. And then let's bend the knees even more, placing the hands down on the mat. And we're going to step the feet back to tabletop. Awesome. Let's take a little bit of a cat-cow here. So inhale, lift the hips up, bringing the chest forward in between the upper arm bones, and dropping the belly towards the floor, and then exhaling, rounding through the tailbone, press the floor away, round, round, round through the entire spine, taking the chin in towards the chest. Inhale back to your cow shape, maybe tucking the feet under if that feels good for you, and exhale back to your cat, rounding, 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 press the floor away. Let's do one more of each, so coming back to your cow, reaching the heart forward, lifting the tailbone up. Exhale, draw the belly up and in, pressing the belly towards the ceiling. And let's come back to our neutral tabletop here. We're going to lower all the way down to the belly. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring the hips slightly forward into a modified chaturanga. Let's lift those shins up off the mat. We're going to take the fingers nice and wide, and we're going to hug the upper arms into the shoulder socket as we slowly lower down, keeping the belly engaged to take the chest all the way down to the mat. Good. Let's release everything down to the floor. We're coming to baby cobra. So I want to start with the legs. Let's take the hands underneath the shoulder heads, and then let's engage through the legs. So pressing into the tops of your feet, pressing into the thighs, lifting the kneecaps up off the mat. We're going to slowly begin to peel the chest up off the mat, drawing the shoulders down, lifting the heart up and forward, and then maybe playing with lifting your hands up here. Seeing if you can draw your elbows in, your shoulder blades in. You should feel the whole back beginning to engage. Hold it for 3. Keep pressing into the legs for 2. Lengthen through the back of the neck. 1, and release. Good. Inhale to press through the hands to come up to tabletop. Once more. And then let's take the knees wide, big toes together. Let's sit the hips back towards the heels for child's pose. You can rest the forehead down on the floor or a mat, or you can even take a block underneath the forehead if you need the floor to come up a little bit higher for you to be comfortable. So here in child's pose, really imagining inhaling into your lower back space. Imagining that as you inhale, you're sending the air all the way down into the bottom of the torso, into the low back. Feeling it begin to widen and spread. And then as you exhale, letting the whole body soften and sink deeper into the floor. Inhaling to expand through the low back, and exhaling to soften, sink deeper. So let's walk this child's pose over to the left side of your mat. So I want you to slowly walk the hands over to the left, taking the right hand on top of the left, and then grounding that right hip back in space to feel a stretch through maybe the right side body, maybe the right side of the lower back. It all depends on your practice and your body. So just noticing where you feel this stretch. Thinking about the fingers reaching forward and the right hip reaching back. Breathe into this line of energy that you've created in the right side of your body. And then let's switch to the other side. So slowly walking the hands back to center and then over to the right, stacking the left hand over the right. Good. And think about reaching forward through the fingertips and back through the left hip. Energetically moving these two poles, these two places in the body away from each other. Breathing into that line on the left side of the body. The left hip, the left lower back, sending your breath there. Exhaling to soften, get heavy. One more breath here. And then we'll inhale to walk the hands back to center. Exhale here. And then inhale to press back up into your tabletop. And we're coming down to the mat once more for Shalabhasana. So taking the chest and legs all the way down to the floor. Let's take the hands underneath the head for a moment. Letting our back kind of settle. And then when you're ready, take your forehead all the way down to the mat and take your hands back around to your lower back, palms face up, stacking the hands on top of one another. Walk the legs back, make sure you have lots of space in the front line of your body. And then when you're ready, we're going to come into alternating Shalabhasana, swimmer, something or other. So you're going to sweep that right hand out away from the body and reaching it forward. At the same time, lifting that left leg off the ground, pressing the belly and pelvis down into the floor. Lengthening through the back of the neck. And then as you exhale, bringing everything back to where we were to start. Resting the forehead back down on the mat. Let's switch sides. So sweeping that left arm around, reaching that right leg up, reaching through the fingertips, palms face in, or I guess pinkies towards the floor, thumb is towards the ceiling. And then exhale to return back to the start. Again, inhale, the right arm sweeps forward, left leg lifts. Good, we're really targeting, isolating the low back here. Exhaling to release everything back down. Inhale, left arm, right leg, sweeps forward and lifts. And exhale to release. Last two. Inhale, right arm, left leg, press the pelvis and the belly, engage the core, reaching forward through the fingertips and back through the toes. Exhale, back down. Last one. Inhale, right leg lifts, left arm sweeps forward. Again, really trying to move these 2 points of the body away from each other, and exhaling to return. Let's take the hands underneath the forehead to rest for just a moment, letting the spine and the low back return to homeostasis before we move on. Awesome. And then we're going to take the hands underneath the shoulders. We're going to inhale to press up through our tabletop, and we're going to transition through to seated. We're just going to take a quick twist here to release the back. So let's take the legs out in front into Dandasana or staff pose. And then we're going to keep the left leg straight, bending the right knee. Let's take the right foot across over the left leg. Take that left hand and sweep it around to the outside of the right knee, and take that right hand and swim it back to rest onto the floor or a block. Inhale to get tall, and exhale to twist to the right, stacking your heart space over your pelvis and the crown of head over your heart. Pressing into the big toe side of the right foot. No reason to pull or wrench here. We're just in this gentle twist, and you can keep the gaze neutral, or you can take it over the right shoulder if that feels safe for your neck. And then we'll inhale back to center, and we'll switch sides, returning to staff pose. Let's bend the left knee and take the left foot over the right leg. Right foot is flexed, toes towards the ceiling. Take the right hand on the outside of the left knee. Left hand sweeps behind. Inhale, get tall. Exhale, twisting to the left now. Broadening through the chest and the shoulders. Pressing into the big toe side of the left foot, keeping that right leg active. Right thigh presses down towards the mat. Chin's parallel, and you can keep the gaze straight ahead or look over the left shoulder, your choice. Whatever feels good in your body. I'm getting all sorts of snap, crackle, pops in my spine right now. It feels really nice. Let's take one more deep breath, pushing the ribs out of the way. And exhale to come back to center. We'll unravel the legs. Take your seat to the middle of the mat. And we're going to slowly begin to hinge back, bending the knees and rolling down onto the back. Good. And we're going to come into Apasana, which basically means we're going to bend our knees, and we're going to take our hands on the tops of our knees. So normally when we do this pose towards the end of class, we hug the knees all the way into the chest. We're not going to do that this time. So I want you to bring the knees away from the body until you can feel, imagining that your sit bones, these bones right here at the bottom of your hips, were like flashlights. And when we pull our knees in really far, the flashlights start to kind of point towards the ceiling, and then we have them in neutral. I almost want you to make it so that the flashlights are peeking it down towards the floor, like the flashlights are pointing slightly down towards the floor. So hands rest on the top of the knees. And then we're going to keep those flashlights pointing down towards the floor as we slowly start to draw the knees in towards the chest, keeping that neutral lumbar curve. So we don't want to be pressing the lumbar spine or the low back into the mat. We want to maintain that natural curve of the low spine. And then let's come back to where we started. Same thing again, starting to bring those knees in towards the chest while maintaining the curve of the low back, keeping it up off the floor, and trying to keep those sit bones peeking down towards the floor. And when you feel those things start to change, when you feel the low back starting to press into the mat or the sit bones lifting, that's where we stop. And then we shift back to the beginning. Let's do one more. Slowly moving the knees in, keeping the curve, the natural curve of the low back, keeping the sit bones looking down towards the mat, and then returning back to the start. Let's alternate knees now. So we're going to keep that left knee in place, and we're going to slowly bring that right knee in for the same therapeutic movement. Bring it back. This time we're massaging the sacroiliac joint, or the space, left knee now, the space where the sacrum inserts into the pelvis or the hip bones. Bring that left knee back, right side, drawing that right knee in. So this is great if you have, this is a wonderful therapeutic movement if you have a sacroiliac dysfunction or an issue with your sacroiliac joint. This kind of massages that place. Good, just alternating between the two knees, one at a time, nice and slow, gentle movements here. Last one on each side. Good, and if you'd like to take a shavasana, you can extend the legs one at a time, bringing them out straight. I like to do it one at a time because I feel like when I shoot my legs both out at once, my low back is like, it goes into protection mode. So by doing one at a time, we're letting our low back stay nice and soft and relaxed. So you can release the arms out to your sides just for a quick shavasana, about a minute, palms face up, feet wider than the hips. Just take a moment to breathe. Unhinging the jaw, relaxing the face, letting the shoulders sink into the mat, hips become heavy. And letting your breathing return to normal. And then when you're ready, begin to deepen the breath into the body, making small gentle movements in the fingers and the toes. And bending one knee and then the other, placing the soles of the feet flat on the floor, and then rolling onto one side into the fetal position to rest. And as you're ready, slowly pressing the body up to seated. Find a comfortable seated position. Just taking a moment to notice, checking in with the body. Checking in with the low back. How you feeling, low back? Hopefully you feel better. And then bringing the hands to prayer at heart center. Honoring and respecting the body and remembering to take time to care for the body and to do these exercises that may seem a little bit easier or may seem a little bit slower, but that are really meant to care for the body and to bring us back into homeostasis. Thank you for sharing this quick practice with me. Namaste.